Are you looking to transition from a Canadian work environment to an Asian one, or vice versa? Or are you just wondering what it's like to work in an Asian work environment or the Canadian one? Well, I have experienced working in both the Eastern and Western cultures, as I used to live in Singapore and Jakarta and have collaborated with people from all over Asia, including Japan, Thailand, Korea, India, and China, and I am currently living in Canada. And let me tell you, the differences can be quite stark. So in this video, I am going to share with you the key differences between the work culture in Asia versus Canada based on my own experience, which I will be breaking up into 5 key points today. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Febby, and on this channel I share stories and lessons from my nonlinear life journey to help you navigate yours and feel less alone in the process. If you are planning a big move to either side of the world, or if you're an international student looking to enter the workforce, or are just curious about how cultural differences shape work life, well, this video is for you. Number 1 is collectivist versus individualist culture. In many parts of Asia, or at least the parts where I have been exposed to and also the way I was brought up, we adopt a highly collectivist culture. So maintaining group harmony is prioritized over individual well-being, and it is literally a we versus me culture. And how this translates into the workplace is, on one side, it translates into a genuine sense of teamwork and a real sense of camaraderie. And when there is something worth celebrating at work, people tend to take credit as a group versus shining a spotlight on certain individuals. And because of this we versus me culture, I also feel like there is a stronger sense to fit in and to be the same like everyone else, to not want to stand out. And because of this conditioning of not wanting to stand out, sometimes people who are really outstanding at work, they tend to adopt a different perception on humility. So for people who are high achievers, high performers, instead of accepting the compliments at work and be proud of their accomplishments, they tend to downplay their accomplishments because then it would make them seem humble, and unfortunately this kind of behavior is looked upon favorably in Asia. Whereas here in Canada, the culture is more individualist, so self-reliance, independence, and taking initiative are highly valued. The focus is not on group harmony, but the focus is on you as an individual and your well-being. And personally for me, I am always encouraged to take initiative to drive things and to pursue my own career goals. One thing for sure is that in Canada, you are your own biggest advocate. So you are responsible for communicating your accomplishments and the impact of your contribution, and you are responsible for articulating that. And also it is okay or even encouraged for you to just be your unique self, even if it is different than everyone else. But at the end of the day, individuality is appreciated here versus looked down upon. And there is no such thing as a need to fit in or a need to be the same as everyone else, because the mindset is that being different is good, being unique is good, as long as you are being yourself. Number 2 is a different definition of hierarchy game. In many parts of Asia, higher ups tend to be so out of reach, like they are so up there, and it makes them feel so unapproachable. And a lot of people tend to act very differently when they talk to higher ups in Asia, or they tend to bend on a lot because of that hierarchical system. When you work in a professional work setting, it is considered impolite to disagree with senior management, or people don't really do that. And so I feel like in Asia, lots of people at work, even as professionals, they adopt a yes man mindset, which I also was taught when I was still living there. And not many people are willing to speak up even when they disagree, and sometimes they would just gossip and complain about the decisions that were just made there without really speaking up during the decision-making process. And I think this is because the power dynamic is more obvious in Asia. And I know even in some parts of Asia, let's say Japan, people don't really go home before their bosses go home. Like if your bosses are still there working away, like even though you're done for the day, like lots of people are reluctant to go home and end up just staying there until their bosses go home. Whereas here in Canada, higher ups tend to be more approachable travel, and they usually have an open door policy. Like, it's not uncommon for you to go to happy hour together and to grab a drink together and just talk about work, non-work stuff, and just build that rapport with senior management. And it is even encouraged to do that. Like, it is encouraged for you to approach senior management and build that relationships, especially when you work for a big corporation, because you need that visibility to advance in your career. And in formal work settings, if you disagree with your manager, for example, like, you are encouraged to speak up and share your thoughts. And I think this is because the social structure here in Canada is flatter as compared to Asia, which is more hierarchical. However, I'm not saying that there is no power dynamic in play. Of course, there is still a power dynamic in play when you are at work. Like, your seniority matters, where you are in the corporate ladder matters, but it just doesn't play out the same way as if you worked in Asia. And also, I gave you an example about Japan earlier, where some people, they don't dare to go home if their bosses are still working away. And I think this is not applicable in Canada. Like, in Canada, you are empowered to manage your own schedule. Like, if you need to go home earlier than your boss for whatever reason, maybe pick up the kids, or if you need to catch the latest train, or you need to avoid a traffic jam, you're given the liberty to manage your own schedule for the most part. I know I cannot say this for every single person who works here in Canada, but I think the general rule of thumb is that you are given that independence and that autonomy and that flexibility. That being said, it has been more than 5 years since I last worked in Asia, so I'm curious to know how things might have changed, especially since now we have Gen Z, who's inherently more outspoken in the workplace. So I'm hoping that is changing the dynamic a little bit, but I'm curious to know. So if you have any first-hand experience with this, or if you are the one making the change and making the waves at your workplace in Asia, let me know what your experience is like in the comment section down below. Before we move on to the next section, if you are enjoying this video so far, please give it a thumbs up, because apparently that would help a lot with the algorithm, and also that would help me understand what kind of video you like to see from me, so I could keep making videos that you enjoy and you find useful. Next one is work-life boundaries. I swear that the definition of personal boundaries in Asia and Canada is completely different. Starting from small talk, which I think is definitely one of the social skills that we all need to master to integrate to either culture, because let's be real, we need to make small talks until we die, pretty much. So might as well master and understand how to make a good one. And when cultural differences go into the mix, like, things can be so nuanced, and sometimes we might get confused about what is appropriate versus not. In Asia, say you just met a new coworker who's just joined the company for a week. It is normal to ask them things like, oh, hey, are you attached? Do you have a partner? Or are you married? Do you have kids yet? How many kids do you have? Things like that. It's very normal, even when you just met not too long ago, and people won't look at you like, what a weirdo, which I think is interesting as compared to the work-life boundaries here in Canada. Because in Canada, I think people draw a clearer line between work and life. That does not mean that you can't talk about personal topics, but I think in general, based on my experience, it's gonna take time for you to get there, and it does not always happen, especially at work. Like, some people tend to separate their work and life very, very clearly. Some people are more open to talking about their personal life at work, but there's also a lot of people who clearly separate their work and life. And this is why sometimes small talks in Canada can be very superficial and boring, because like, people will talk about the weather, which I know is important, but like, at the same time, it's also like a very classic topic that a lot of people, I think, are sick of, yet you don't really know sometimes what else to talk about. Or another common topic that people like to talk about is sports, like hockey or the NHL or the stock market. Speaking of the stock markets, one of the things that you can talk about when you talk to your coworker about stock market is an advanced trading platform like moomoo. Moomoo offers a robust set of tools for stock analysis, including real-time quotes, 100+ stock screeners, and 100+ technical analysis. It allows you to track and analyze market trends with technical indicators and advanced charting tools, giving you clearer pictures of market movements. On top of that, if you don't have time to manage your profile, ETF can be a great option, which also is something that moomoo offers. Moomoo's comprehensive ETF rating system features top research firm Morningstar ratings, which will help you select the right funds and provides visuals to help you understand your investment based on your risk and goals. It also includes a style box to help you visualize the fund style and make more informed investment decisions. Moomoo currently is running an exclusive offer card, which you can grab from a link in my description box down below. So through that link, you can register and deposit any amount to receive up to $2,000 commission rebate card, 6% cash rebate booster for 60 days, and free level 2 market data for US stocks exchange. Or you can also deposit $2,000 to receive a $200 cash voucher. If you already have your own portfolio and you're looking to transfer it over to moomoo, you can get up to $2,300 Apple gift card for only transferring over. Keep in mind that these bonuses are limited time only, so you can head over to the link that I have in my description box. And also, I'd like to thank moomoo for sponsoring this video. Now, moving on to the next point, which is making real friends at work. So with the work culture in Asia being a lot more open, it is also a lot easier to build relationships at work. And I'm talking about real relationships, real friendships here. Let's just say if you vibe with each other, it is very common to even hang with each other on the weekends. Like, you don't only stay as work besties during the work week. A lot of people also hang with each other on the weekends. Some people, they even have a very tight-knit team at work that they even plan social events or like work social events on the weekends, and people won't mind at all if they enjoy each other's company. And I think because people are generally more open and I think more chill when it comes to making friends, lots of people also mix their friend groups. For example, they mix their friends that they met in high school with the friends that they meet at work, as an example. Whereas here in Canada, because people respect more personal boundaries and people tend to stay within the safe zone when it comes to the topics they talk about at work, even when you have work besties, usually work besties stay as work besties. Like, you don't really hang out with each other outside of work, especially on the weekends. Maybe you'll go for happy hour like on a weekday after work and take that as part of your professional life, but people don't really hang out with each other outside of work on weekends. You want to talk about traveling together? Man, that is unheard of. But of course, I'm just talking about the general sentiment here. Of course, there's anomaly. There are people who are soulmates who maybe met at work and become forever friends, for example. Like, of course, there are cases like that, but I think in general, that's just how things are usually. And also, people, from what I know, especially in Vancouver, people don't really mix their friend groups. I know Canada is also a very big country, so there are nuances across different regions. And also in Canada, unless you're part of a management trainee program, which I think is a very great place to make friends, and I'm talking about real friends at work. And the reason why is because usually when you're just fresh out of school, you join the management trainee program, so you're still in that mindset. So I think the mentality is sort of different because you're sort of like a young professional early in your career, and you have this group of people who are on the same boat with you, so that way it's easier to make friends. And I know lots of people who are part of management training program, they usually are able to forge that meaningful friendships at work because they sort of like are all in this together kind of feeling. Last but not least is the different intensity of work environment. So first of all, generally in Asia, working long hours is very normalized, which I think is not a surprise to a lot of people. I'm talking about the many parts of Asia, such as Singapore, Japan, Korea, China, or even Indonesia. It is still tricky to push back to not want to work longer hours. I think it's also because working long hours is still celebrated and seen as dedication, and it is quite unfortunate. And I think it's because it's super competitive in Asia. Lots of people also have FOMO, like, oh, if I push back and say no to my boss, it's gonna hurt my reputation, and then it's gonna hurt my career progression opportunity. Also, there is still this mindset that, oh, if you work harder than everyone else, you sort of wear that imaginary badge of honor, and you are sort of better than everyone else because you appear more dedicated and things like that. Whereas here in Canada, work-life balance is generally a lot better as compared to Asia, which is also one of the key reasons why I decided to move here from Singapore to Canada. And I know that work-life balance generally varies depending on the industry that you're in, the kind of role that you have, or the kind of profession that you have, even like the team and the manager you work under. And the intensity, like the pace, the intensity of work is also different as compared to Asia. Asia, I do feel like the pace is go, go, go. It's very fast paced. It's like everything needed to be done yesterday kind of thing. The upside is like you move fast and like you output a lot more, but the downside is that as a professional or as someone who works for other people, then you get burnt out easily. There you have it, friends, the work culture in Asia versus Canada. And as you can see, there are pros and cons to each of the work culture. As someone who was brought up in Asia and brought up with Asian upbringing, I'm not gonna lie, I struggled so much when I first moved to Canada. Even with the things that are considered better in Canada versus Asia, such as like the pace, like Canada has a slower pace compared to Asia. Even with this, like I struggled so much to adapt initially because I was always in that go state, and for me to slow down and to take a breath was also a struggle for me. Now, if you have experience working in both cultures like I do, let me know in the comment section down below what is your experience like. Or if you have experience working in either culture and would like to share your point of view as well and your thoughts on this video, also don't be shy and share your thoughts because I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.